My boss messaged me every night after work, so I messaged her every hour of her vacation. I work in accounts payable for a manufacturing company. I've been there for 4 years. I process invoices faster than anyone else on my team, and I haven't had a single error flag in over 2 years. My reviews are solid, my numbers are solid, I don't cause problems. The person who ruined all of that was my boss, Felicity. She got promoted to department head about 8 months ago. Before that, she was on the same level as me, and we got along fine. We'd eat lunch together sometimes. She'd ask about my girlfriend. I'd ask about her husband, normal coworker stuff. The second she got the title, everything changed. Felicity decided that being in charge meant being available at all times, and she expected the same from everyone under her. The first after-hours message came on a Monday night at 9:15. She sent me an email asking if I had processed a batch of invoices from the week before. I had. I processed them on Friday like I always do, but I answered her because I thought maybe it was urgent. It wasn't. She just wanted confirmation. She could have checked the system herself in 30 seconds. But she messaged me instead at 9:15 on a Monday night while I was watching a movie with my girlfriend. The next night, she messaged me at 10 asking about a vendor account number. The night after that, she sent me 3 separate messages between 8 and 11 about a report that wasn't due until the following week. Each one had a different question. Each one required me to pull up my laptop and log into the company system to answer accurately. By the end of my first month under her, I was getting messages from Felicity every single night. Weeknights, weekends, holidays. She texted me on a Saturday morning at 7 asking where a file was saved. She emailed me on Easter Sunday about a formatting issue on a spreadsheet. She called me at 9:30 on a Friday night because she couldn't find a folder on the shared drive. I picked up because I thought something was actually wrong. She just needed me to tell her the folder name. She could have searched for it herself. She didn't. She called me instead because she had decided that having direct reports meant having people available to answer the phone whenever she had a question, regardless of the day or the hour or what they might be doing with their lives outside of that building. I asked her once very politely if we could keep communication to business hours unless it was an emergency. She told me that in her position every task was urgent, and that being responsive was part of the job. I told her it wasn't in my contract. She said attitude like that is why people stay in the same role for 4 years. That sentence sat in my chest for weeks. 4 years of clean work. 4 years of no errors. 4 years of being the person who processed invoices faster than anyone on the floor. And she reduced all of it to a character flaw because I asked to eat dinner without checking my email. I stopped pushing. My coworker Dale was getting the same treatment. So was our other teammate Iris. All 3 of us were getting nightly messages, and none of us knew how to stop it without risking our jobs. Dale started sleeping with his phone on silent, and Felicity wrote him up for not responding to a weekend email within 2 hours. 2 hours. On a Saturday. The email was about the format of a quarterly summary that wasn't due for 3 weeks. Dale showed me the write-up. It said failure to maintain responsive communication standards. He had been with the company for 6 years. He had never been written up for anything. Now he had a disciplinary note in his file because he didn't answer a Saturday email about font sizes within 120 minutes. Iris responded to everything immediately because she was scared, and Felicity rewarded her by sending even more messages because she knew Iris would always answer. Iris once told me she answered a message at 2 in the morning because she saw the notification light blinking and was afraid of what would happen if she waited until the morning. She had dark circles under her eyes that didn't go away for months. I was somewhere in the middle. I responded when I could, but I was losing my mind. My girlfriend Bree told me I was glued to my phone every night, and she was right. I couldn't watch a movie without checking my email. I couldn't eat dinner without my phone on the table face up so I could see every notification the second it arrived. I started waking up at 3 in the morning to check if Felicity had sent something I missed. I'd lie in bed scrolling through my inbox with the brightness turned down so I didn't wake Bree. She woke up anyway. She told me she could see the light from the screen reflecting off the ceiling, and she knew exactly what I was doing. She asked me once if Felicity was paying me overtime for being on call 24 hours a day. I said no. She said then why are you doing it? I didn't have a good answer. The truth was fear. Felicity had made it clear through Dale's write-up that non-responsiveness had consequences. She never said it directly. She didn't have to. The write-up was the message: respond or get documented. I lost 11 pounds in 4 months. I stopped cooking because I couldn't stand near the stove without my phone in my hand, and I kept burning things because I was reading emails instead of watching the pan. Bree started cooking for both of us because she was worried about me. She made a comment one night about how she had signed up for a girlfriend and ended up as a personal chef and emotional support for someone in an abusive work relationship. She was joking, but she wasn't wrong. I started getting headaches every evening around 7 because that was the time my body had learned to expect the first message. It was like clockwork. My shoulders would tense up, my jaw would clench. I'd start checking my phone every 2 minutes even before anything arrived. My body was anticipating the stress before it even happened. Bree told me one night that she felt like she was competing with my boss for my attention. She said she had tried to have a conversation with me 3 times that evening, and every time I had picked up my phone mid-sentence. She wasn't angry. She was tired. Tired of being second to a woman who didn't even know I had a girlfriend. I was physically present and mentally somewhere else every single evening, and it had been that way for months. Then Felicity announced she was taking a 2-week vacation. She told us she was going to some resort in the Caribbean with her husband, and that she expected everything to run smoothly while she was gone. She assigned me as the point person for the department while she was out. She gave me a printed list of tasks and responsibilities and told me to reach out if I had any questions. She said that twice. She looked me in the eyes and said, "Reach out if you have any questions. I want to make sure nothing falls through the cracks while I'm away." The irony of that sentence was staggering. This woman who had not allowed a single crack of silence in 8 months was now asking us to make sure nothing fell through. She wanted 2 weeks of peace. 2 uninterrupted weeks at a resort with her husband where she could sit by the pool and eat nice food and not think about vendor codes and invoice batches. She wanted exactly what she had taken from the 3 of us for the better part of a year. Bree is the one who gave me the idea, not directly. She said it as a joke while we were making dinner. She said you should message Felicity every 5 minutes while she's gone and see how she likes it. She was laughing when she said it. I wasn't. I stood there holding a wooden spoon, and I thought about it. Not every 5 minutes. That would be obvious and unprofessional unprofessional, and it would give Felicity grounds to say I was being retaliatory, but every hour, with legitimate questions. Things I technically had the authority to decide myself, but that I could reasonably loop Felicity in on given the specific responsibilities she had assigned me. Nothing personal, nothing sarcastic, just the same constant, low-grade professional intrusion she had subjected us to since the day she got promoted. On her first day of vacation, I sent her a message at 7 in the morning, asking which vendor code to use for a new account. She answered within an hour. At noon, I sent another one asking if she wanted the weekly report formatted the same way, or if I should update the headers. She answered again. At 2, I asked about the approval threshold for invoices over $5,000. At 4, I asked about the archiving protocol for voided purchase orders. At 6, I asked whether the new vendor onboarding template had been finalized. At 9, I sent a follow-up to my earlier question about the report headers asking specifically about the date format in the footer. By the end of day 1, I had sent her 6 messages, all legitimate work questions, all things that technically fell under the authority she gave me, but that I could have easily figured out on my own. Every single one was professionally worded. Every single one was the kind of question she would have sent me at 10 on a Tuesday night without a second thought. On day 2, I bumped it up to 8. I asked about approval thresholds and filing conventions, and which color coding system she preferred for the tracking sheet. I copied her on 3 email chains she didn't need to be on. I marked 2 of them as high priority. I sent one at 6 in the morning and one at 11 at night, all within the standards she set for us, all using the exact tone and urgency level she used in her own messages. I was holding up a mirror. She just didn't know it yet. Dale caught on by day 3. He came to my desk in the morning and said, "I see what you're doing." I said, "I don't know what you mean." He grinned and said, "How can I help?" He started doing the same thing. He sent Felicity a message asking about the supply closet inventory process. He asked about the recycling bin labels and whether they needed to match the updated corporate sustainability branding. Iris caught on by day 4. She sent one asking if the break room fridge was supposed to be cleaned out that week. Then she sent another asking about the policy for microwaving fish in the office kitchen, because a coworker had done it and she wasn't sure if that was a reportable event. All valid questions, all completely unnecessary, all phrased with the same polished professionalism Felicity used when she interrupted our evenings. By the end of the first week, Felicity had received over 40 messages from our team. She answered every single one. Some of her replies were short. One word. Fine. Yes. No. Some were clearly annoyed. She sent Dale a reply that said, "Is this really something that needs my input right now?" Dale replied saying he wasn't sure and he didn't want to make the wrong call without guidance from leadership. Felicity couldn't argue with that. She had spent 8 months telling us we needed her approval for everything. Now we were giving her exactly what she asked for. One of her replies was just a question mark. I responded to the question mark with a detailed restatement of my original question and a polite request for clarification. She answered it 20 minutes later. She couldn't ignore them because she had spent 8 months training us to believe that every message deserved an immediate response regardless of the time or the day. She had built the system. Now she was trapped inside it. Week 2 is when it got interesting. I had been keeping a spreadsheet since month 3, not an official one, a personal one on my own computer. Every message Felicity had sent me after business hours since she became department head. Date, time, content. Whether it was actually urgent based on any reasonable definition of the word. I had 8 months of data, 214 messages. 87% of them were about things that could have waited until the next business day without any consequence. 41% were about things that weren't even due for another week or more. 12 of them were sent after midnight. 3 of them were on federal holidays. 7 of them were about issues that had already been resolved before she even sent the message. I didn't make that spreadsheet to weaponize it. I started it because my girlfriend suggested I track the messages to see if I was overreacting about the volume. I wasn't. If anything, my perception underestimated the reality. I thought I was getting 4 or 5 messages a week. The real number was closer to 7. On the Monday of Felicity's second vacation week, I sent her 14 messages between 6 in the morning and 10 at night, spaced roughly 1 per hour. Every single one was a legitimate work question. I asked about the naming convention for archived invoices from Q3. I asked whether the new vendor onboarding form needed dual signatures or just one. I asked if the font on the internal memo template had been updated or if I should use the old version. I asked about the disposal protocol for voided checks over 90 days old. I asked about the warranty tracking file and whether it should be shared with the procurement team or kept within our department. I asked about the color of the highlighting used in the exception report because 2 versions existed, and I wanted to make sure I used the correct one. Each message was professional and detailed, and about something I already knew the answer to. I just needed her to experience what it felt like to never be off the clock, to never sit by a pool or eat a meal or watch a sunset without a notification pulling her back into someone else's workflow. Dale sent her 9 messages that day. Iris sent 11. All 3 of us coordinated our timing so the messages were staggered throughout the day and evening. Felicity's phone would have been buzzing from 6 in the morning until almost midnight. By Wednesday of that second week, Felicity stopped responding. Her replies went from immediate to delayed to non-existent. I sent her a message at 7 in the morning asking about the expense report formatting and got nothing back until 4 in the afternoon. A one-word answer. Fine. I sent a follow-up at 5 asking for clarification on what fine meant in the context of my specific question about column widths and decimal places. She didn't reply. Dale sent her a message Thursday morning marked urgent about the location of backup toner cartridges. She didn't respond at all. He sent a second message 2 hours later saying he was concerned about her lack of responsiveness because she had told us multiple times that responsiveness was a core expectation of our roles. No reply. On Thursday night, she sent a group email to all 3 of us. It said, "Going forward, please hold all non-emergency questions until I return to the office on Monday. Please use your judgment to determine what constitutes an emergency." I took a screenshot of that email immediately. Dale did too. Iris forwarded it to her personal account. That email was the first time in 8 months that Felicity acknowledged the concept of non-emergency communication. It was the first time she told us to use our own judgment instead of routing everything through her. It was the first time she drew a line between questions that needed her and questions that didn't. She discovered that line after 10 days of living on our side of it. Felicity came back from vacation on a Monday. She looked looked tired, not resort sun relaxed, tired, drained. She had bags under her eyes. She walked into the office without her usual energy. She didn't stop by our desks to check on things. She went straight to her office and closed the door. At 10, she sent a department-wide email. It said effective immediately, all non-urgent communication should be handled during business hours only. She said if something could wait until the next morning, it should wait until the next morning. She said she trusted the team's judgment and discretion regarding urgency levels. Dale read the email out loud at his desk. Iris printed it and taped it to the inside of her drawer. I saved it in 3 separate folders. That was the policy we had been asking for since month 1. The policy Felicity refused to implement when I asked politely. The policy she mocked me for wanting. Attitude like that is why people stay in the same role for 4 years. It took her 10 days to understand what she had done to us for 8 months. The new policy held for about 3 weeks before Felicity started testing the boundary. A message here, a late night email there. Small ones at first. Nothing as aggressive as before. More like a person dipping their toe in to see if the water was still cold. She sent Dale an email at 8:31 evening about a quarterly filing deadline. He responded at 8 the next morning during business hours. She sent me a text on a Saturday afternoon asking if I had access to a particular vendor contract. I responded Monday morning at my desk. I didn't apologize for the delay. I didn't explain that I had been at a farmer's market with Bree when the message came in. I just answered the question 40 hours later like it was the most natural thing in the world, because it was. She sent Iris a message at 9 on a Tuesday night about a meeting agenda for the following week. Iris left it until the next day. That was the hardest one because Iris had spent 8 months being conditioned to respond within minutes. She told me the next morning that she had stared at the notification for 10 minutes before putting her phone in a drawer and going to bed. She said it felt like defusing a bomb, but she did it, and nothing happened. No write-up, no consequence. Just a question that got answered 8 hours later instead of 8 minutes later, and the world kept turning. Every time Felicity tested the boundary, we held the line. We didn't argue. We didn't explain ourselves. We just responded during business hours as though the after-hours message had arrived during business hours. We treated her late-night messages the way she should have been treating ours all along, like things that could wait. Felicity sent Dale a pointed follow-up at 10 one night asking why he hadn't replied to her earlier message. He responded at 8 the next morning saying he reviews all communications at the start of the business day per the department's updated communication policy. He attached Felicity's own email as a reference, her own words used as a citation against her own behavior. She didn't test Dale again after that. She closed the door. She sat behind her desk and looked at me and said, "I know what you did." I asked what she meant. She said during my vacation, "You and Dale and Iris. You did that on purpose." I said we followed the communication standard you established for the department. She said you knew exactly what you were doing. I said I did. She said that was manipulative. I said it was instructive. She went quiet for a moment, then she said it worked. She said she talked to her husband about it during the second week. She said he told her she had been impossible to be around for months because she was always on her phone dealing with work even when they were at dinner or on the beach or lying by the pool. She said he told her she had turned into the exact kind of manager she used to complain about before her promotion. She said hearing it from him was one thing, but experiencing it firsthand for 2 weeks was something else. She said she didn't realize how relentless it was until it was aimed at her. I let that sentence sit in the air for a moment. Then I told her about the spreadsheet. 214 messages over 8 months. I told her 87% were non-urgent by any reasonable definition. I told her 3 were sent on federal holidays. 12 came after midnight. 7 were about issues already resolved before she even pressed send. I told her I lost 11 pounds because I stopped cooking because I couldn't put my phone down long enough to stand in front of a stove. I told her Bree almost left because I hadn't been fully present for a single evening in 8 months. I told her Dale had a disciplinary write-up on his permanent file because he didn't answer a Saturday email about font sizes within 2 hours. I told her Iris was answering messages at 2 in the morning because she was so afraid of consequences that her body wouldn't let her sleep through a notification. She looked at the desk. She was quiet for a long time. She asked if I was planning to take the spreadsheet to HR. I said no. I said the policy change was what I wanted, and she had given it to me. I said what I wanted beyond that was to eat dinner without my phone in my hand and sleep without waking up to check my inbox. She nodded. She said she was sorry. She didn't say it like a boss delivering a calculated apology. She said it like a person who had just realized something uncomfortable about themselves and didn't quite know what to do with it. I said I appreciate that. I walked out. Dale was at his desk pretending he wasn't listening through the wall. He looked at me. I gave him a small nod. He went back to his spreadsheet. The after-hours messages stopped. Not entirely. Maybe once a month something genuinely urgent comes through and we handle it. That's fine. That's normal. That's what working on a team is supposed to look like. But the nightly barrage ended. The weekend emails about font sizes ended. The holiday messages about spreadsheets ended. The write-ups for not responding on a Saturday ended. My phone sits on the counter during dinner now, face down. I don't check it. Bree and I watched an entire movie last week without a single interruption. When the credits rolled, she looked at me and said that was the first time in almost a year that I had been fully present for 2 straight hours. She said it like it was a small miracle. She's right. It kind of was. I told her about the spreadsheet months ago. She already knew. She's the one who told me to start tracking the messages in the first place. She said she knew it would be useful eventually. She just didn't know it would become the most important document in my professional life. Dale got promoted last month. Different department. Better title. Better hours. He thanked me on his last day. He said the spreadsheet idea saved his sanity. He said he had been 2 weeks away from quitting before the vacation plan, and that the only reason he stayed was because he wanted to see how it played out. Iris is still with us. She doesn't flinch when her phone buzzes at night anymore. She told me recently that she started leaving her phone in another room after 9 every evening, and it changed her entire life. She sleeps through the night now. The dark circles are gone. Felicity is still our boss. She's not a bad manager now. She's not a great one either, but she respects the line, and that's all I ever wanted. Some lessons only land when you feel them from the other side.